2024 was marked by a lot of different things that happened within the gaming industry. I would say the biggest thing that you could say define that year was just the sheer amount of layoffs, closures, game cancellations, just kind of a reduction in the gaming industry. I've talked about my thoughts on that. I don't believe this is some sort of major video game crash, as we do see some numbers that the video game industry is actually relatively healthy in terms of the amount of money it makes and everything. I think this is just getting the industry back to normal from an overinflation during the pandemic, where a lot of people were thinking that video games were going to stay at the same height as they were, because people were locked indoors and they had nothing else to do, and video games had a major boom. So we're getting back to, I would say, normalcy within the industry. I'm sure there will still be more layoffs and some more shrinkage, just also because of economic times and everything. But 2025 is going to be a year that I don't think is defined by that. There will be many other things that do happen. One of my big things that I think will define this year is Xbox and the amount of first-party games that they do release. And if they are all of high quality, a lot of the narratives that Xbox previously had, which is that they don't have any high quality, good games, they put out duds all the time, all that type of stuff that you do see online. I mean, kind of warranted for some of their releases, like when you see the release of Redfall. I think all that's going to go away, and we're going to have a massive year from the Xbox front. The other thing that I think will definitely be happening in 2025 is we will see more along the lines of the multi-platform strategy, not only from Xbox, but a lot more from PlayStation. I've said on this channel many times before that I think at some point PlayStation is going to be putting their games day and date into their subscription service, and they will continue to put their games onto PC and eventually day and date onto PC as well, to try to cash in on the major sales that they could be getting that they're missing out on right now. They're leaving a lot of money on the table by not doing that. Other thing that is going to define 2025 is going to be the Nintendo Switch 2. How well is that thing going to sell when it does launch? How big of a jump is it going to be from the current Nintendo Switch? How many people are going to upgrade right away from the current Nintendo Switch? As we know, that console will still be supported for quite some time with just the amount of people out there that do own one. That will be another defining factor. We have an article here from Bloomberg talking about the video game industry predictions for 2025. A lot of things that I agree with that I think will happen, but it kind of will give us an outlook as to what we can expect here going forward this year. Here's the article. It says video game industry predictions for 2025. And this is the stuff that they go through. We'll read through it, and I'll give you my opinions on everything that is said here in this article. So the first thing for the year to come, it says here that the industry will start bouncing back. Tens of thousands of video game workers have lost their jobs over the last 2 years, an unfathomably difficult time for what is ostensibly a growing industry. And as I said, it is growing. The video game industry is not in a crash, but they've had to cut back, I think, because of just major overinflation in the industry during those couple of years of the pandemic. So we've seen studios shut down and big games fail to hit, whether due to an oversaturated market, unreasonable sales expectations, or bad bets. Independent game makers struggled to attract investments, and when they did, the contract terms were unbalanced. As early as the DICE convention last February, game workers and entrepreneurs were preaching the mantra survive until 25. So now what? Says, I don't think except every game company to miraculously return to pandemic era peaks. I do think we'll see some improvements. Consoles have plateaued. One thing we talk about a lot here is consoles have plateaued. I mean, they are selling to the same people over and over again. These companies have to find ways to reach new customers, which is why we're seeing a lot of the expansion with the multi-platform strategy. It says, but the computer market is growing rapidly. Again, Steam, PC. It's why you see all these companies putting their games there and make sure they can't miss it. Even when you take a publisher like Ubisoft, who put a lot of money into opening up their own storefront and realizing that they can't just keep their games on PC locked, that they have to put their games on Steam. There's no point in releasing your game on PC unless you do put it into Steam as well. Day one. It can't be something that comes after the fact. It needs to be day one. PC gamers have spoken. They don't care about your game unless it is in Steam. And you still see some of these companies making that mistake, which I think we'll see a lot less of in 2025. Talks about the service here peaking more than 39 million concurrent users in 2024. This is a leap of 6 million, as we've talked about here on a couple of videos ago. And then the next thing that I think is going to absolutely stimulate the video game market this year is going to be the Nintendo Switch 2. So that is coming out. He mentions that here. But the reason I think it is going to be so big is because we already know how big of a market they have for the current Nintendo Switch. And this is going to be a console coming in, I would say, at a relatively reasonable entry price where people can look at it and say, yeah, I could pick this up day one. I don't need to wait for a price cut in the future. If there is even going to be a price cut, I mean, the Nintendo Switch is, I think, even now are still relatively around the same price. And you're going to have a lot of people be interested in the whole backwards compatibility feature of it, if it's going to be able to give them better resolutions and frame rates on their games that are on the Nintendo Switch and just attached to their 4K display. If it has something like NVIDIA DLSS with the Switch 2, that's going to be a major selling point, with a lot of people now having a 4K TV, as they've become relatively inexpensive to pick up one and have it in your home. So I think that's going to be huge for the console market. But again, probably still selling the Switch 2 to the same people that bought the Switch 1, and maybe people who have consoles already, didn't get this current Nintendo Switch, and are eventually looking to get into Nintendo. You have to ask yourself, will Nintendo eventually start going more into putting their games into other places, specifically on PC? If there's one company right now that has been doing this the least, it is Nintendo. But if, let's just say, Nintendo were to release a game on PC, like they put a game in Steam, they would be selling things that like crazy. Like they are also leaving a lot of money on the table, but I'm not sure if they care as much as Xbox and PlayStation does in doing that. In fact, Bloomberg here, this is an article by Jason Schreier, goes on here to talk about no more exclusives. Again, that's something we've talked about a lot on this channel. You get a lot of pushback when you say that, people getting angry that the industry is changing, but this is the way that it's going. It says here, last year, Square Enix, the Japanese gaming giant, released the role-playing game Final Fantasy VII Rebirth exclusively for the PlayStation 5, and maybe one of the last third-party exclusives that we ever see, which I'm all for that. I would love to see no more third-party exclusives. I've always been for that, even before these last years where we're seeing that change. It says the company has since promised to aggressively pursue multi-platform strategy, with Rebirth hitting PCs later this month and more ports likely to follow. Even the console makers, Sony and Microsoft, are releasing their games on rival platforms. The previously PlayStation exclusive Spider-Man 2 is coming to PCs, following many of Sony's other games, while Xbox recently released Indiana Jones on the PS5. And exclusive math just doesn't make sense anymore. Games cost too much to make. The console audience isn't growing fast enough, and skipping Steam means missing out on a massive chunk of the market. It says that this year, thinks we'll see Xbox go completely multi-platform and PlayStation get closer and closer. The only exception may be Nintendo, and we'll just have to see how much longer that lasts. And to me, that is a big, big question. I agree with Xbox probably going fully multi-platform. PlayStation will continuously get closer and closer. I've always said we are eventually going to see their games day and date on PC. And I think that day is coming sooner rather than later. Nintendo is that question mark. Will they ever take part in this strategy? And do they care about leaving money on the table? Or do they care more about locking everything down and just having their specific Nintendo brand where you only get to play it on whatever Nintendo console they put out? I think that is different between Nintendo, PlayStation, and Xbox. Because Nintendo must be sitting back looking at the numbers and thinking, it cost us significantly less to build our games comparatively to something like the first party PlayStation game, where we're seeing those go up into the $300-400 million range. So why not make even more profit on every single game by releasing them day and date on PC? They are leaving probably the most money on the table out of all three of these companies in terms of their first party releases, just because of the sheer amount of costs to make them comparatively to an Xbox first party or a PlayStation first party game. The other major thing that we will see starts in February, and this has to do with Ubisoft. We know Ubisoft has been under fire for a while now, and they have a lot of pushback from multiple different directions. Assassin's Creed Shadows is coming out. I think it looks phenomenal. I'm going to be playing that game day one. I'm a big Assassin's Creed fan. A lot of people are going to try to hate on it and try to make that game fail. I don't believe it's going to work. I still think Assassin's Creed Shadows will sell very well, but it's basically a must for Ubisoft here to have Assassin's Creed Shadows succeed after everything we have been hearing with potentially being bought out, Tencent coming in, all of this type of stuff. And they talk about it here saying, not all is well in Paris, where Ubisoft Entertainment has seen shares plummet to their lowest in a decade on weaker than expected sales and the delay of Assassin's Creed Shadows, which was originally planned for last year but slipped to February after the underperformance of Ubisoft's previous big game, Star Wars Outlaws. So now they're weighing their options, including going private. So the upcoming release of Assassin's Creed Shadow could tell us a lot. If it hits, Ubisoft will have more time and leverage as the founding Guillemot family sorts out the company's future. But if it flops, we might see a drastic reorganization happen very quickly, be it a buyout or sale. Tencent Holdings, which already owns a stake in Ubisoft, has been linked to buyout talks. So That's what could happen if Assassin's Creed Shadows fails. He also says they could see unexpected suitors swoop in. The guess here is Saudi Arabia Savvy Games Group, which is said to be making a big purchase this year. I mean, either way, I think both of those options are worse. I know a lot of people hate Ubisoft. I think hating Ubisoft is trendy, but I think Tencent buying out Ubisoft or the Saudi Arabia group buying out Ubisoft is a worse solution for that company versus the Guillemot family just getting their shit together and fixing management and bringing this organization back to where it was. Ubisoft has such a legacy in video games. I would much rather see them get back to where they used to be than sell out to a Tencent or sell out to Saudi Arabia Savvy Game Group. So I am rooting here for Assassin's Creed Shadows as well, not just because I'm a huge Assassin's Creed fan, but I just would like to see them bring Ubisoft back to prominence themselves, again, rather than one of these major companies coming in here and taking it over. But we will see. I think they will be able to buy some time here with the sales of Assassin's Creed Shadows. Everything we have seen from it, aside from all of the hate content that you see online, looks pretty good. I mean, the combat looks good. The characters and the way that they move around and everything, the traversal looks pretty fun too. So the setting, they fix up all of the stuff that has brought the controversy on. I think it will do relatively decent. Now, Grand Theft Auto 6, we know, is going to be the biggest game released, maybe this generation, probably this generation. I don't think it's going to make it to 2025. I think it's going to be pushed to 2026. And Jason Schreier as well, Bloomberg, believe that as well. It says here, publisher Take-Two Interactive Software has said that the most anticipated game of all time is on track for a fall 2025 release. But companies say a lot of things, and the next Grand Theft Auto is a huge and ambitious game. Pressure to make it great is inordinate, and developer Rockstar Games has vowed to avoid forcing excessive overtime. He expects it will slip to 2026. But game that everybody has been waiting for and asking for. It's very odd why we haven't seen this one for so long. Hollow Knight Silksong, he believes, will be coming out here in 2025. I don't really have too much of an opinion on that. I've kind of just given up hope of hoping for it. I'm just going to wait until they tell me at this point, because I don't know how this game hasn't come out yet. It was announced in 2019. And it's just been pushed back and pushed back. I wonder what's going on behind the scenes there. Is it really like in some sort of development hell where they've been having issues? Do they not have enough budget? Reason, like, what is going on with this game? It is very odd because it has been such a long time. I think 2025 will be that year. This is a day one Xbox Game Pass game, so that's massive right off of the bat, which leads me to believe, I think my prediction here is we're finally going to see this game at the Xbox Showcase this year, and then it will be released in the fall of 2025. Now, AI, as we know, is getting into gaming in major ways, and I think it will have a huge impact on gaming. I think there will be a lot of positive things that come out of it. A lot of people look at it only as a negative because it will end up cutting jobs, which that obviously isn't good, but there will be a lot added to games that humans just wouldn't be able to do because it's too time consuming, it's too monotonous. And I think that just has to do with things like having major open worlds with engaging NPCs, having more NPCs out there that say different things rather than just kind of regurgitated lines when you're running around some of these different open worlds. So I do see AI having major roles to play, as well as just getting more unique assets throughout the game rather than copying and pasting similar assets that the humans do throughout different areas of the worlds that we play, and especially with these big major open world games. And they say here that generative AI will have its Icarus moment, saying despite the feverish hype surrounding artificial intelligence, Electronic Arts Chief Executive Officer Andrew Wilson called it the very core of our business, and the results have been underwhelming thus far. Tools like ChatGPT have proven useful for helping organize workflow and assisting with productivity, but their ability to create content and deliver accurate information isn't quite there. Tepid Coca-Cola commercials, erroneous search engine results, and AI-fabricated social media profiles have been met with scorn at worst, laughter at best. This year, I think we'll see a video game company experiment with generative AI to disastrous ends, potentially ranging from plagiarism to lawsuits, or perhaps a company currently trying to make an AI-powered game will realize that it's a fool's errand and cancel it by the end of the year. I could see that stuff happening. I could see people trying to use AI to get rid of the hard work it takes to make some of these creative games out there, and it being just an absolute abysmal failure. That definitely will happen in the beginning of this type of stuff. But then eventually, once these companies and developers realize that you can't do that, then they'll finally start to use AI properly, which again, I think is just going to be adding more engagement to these games created by mostly humans. So we'll see. I've seen some examples of these AI generated games. They're not very good. I mean, and I don't know if we'll ever get to a point where they are. I don't think I ever want to get to that point because you definitely still need humans in there making the majority of the great stuff that we do get to play. Finally, this would be insane if this does happen. The hints are everywhere. I think it's going to happen. Half-Life will finally be making its return, and it's also predicted here that the 2004 release of Half-Life 2 was followed by 2 episodes and a third that was announced and never materialized. Then it went dormant for 13 years. Then we got Half-Life Alyx in 2020. Now we've seen a bunch of rumors about a proper sequel to the game. So Half-Life 3 will be announced in 2025. I think it'll happen. That may be one of the major things that we see at one of these shows, like maybe the last announcement or something that just blows the top off of the showcases that we do get this year. But either way, I think 2025 is going to be a phenomenal year in video games. I think it's going to be much better than 2024 in many ways. And specifically from the different major publisher sides, I think Xbox and Nintendo are going to have huge years. Right now, I know people are going to think I'm just hating because I am an Xbox-centric gamer. PlayStation, we have Ghost of Yotei. That's all we know from their first party. I guess the other prediction I will end off for a little bit positive notes for the PlayStation fans out there. I think PlayStation will have a showcase this year and it's actually going to be good. So they haven't had a good showcase in a number of years. I think they will finally have one with good first party content more than just Ghost, and we get a glimpse as to what we can now start finally expecting from their first parties going forward into the future. And that will definitely cause a lot of hype for a lot of people out there. But I'm going to end the video there, guys. I'm excited for this year. If you did enjoy this video, enjoy this type of content, make sure to hit that subscribe, share the video, like the video, all of that stuff. And I'll catch you guys in the next video.
Bye.